Farewell to Manzanar, Chapter 15, Departures. In the months to come, they would draw together even more closely, just as I would hold to them. My moment of separateness, a foreshadowing, but not yet a reality. Our family had begun to dwindle, along with the entire camp population. By the end of 1944, about 6,000 people remained, and those, for the most part, were the aging and the young. Whoever had prospects on the outside and the energy to go was leaving, relocating, or entering military service. No one could blame them. To most of the Nisei, anything looked better than remaining in camp. For many of their parents, just the opposite was true. Eleanor and Shig had been the first of my family to leave. A few months after she had her baby, she moved back to Reno to stay with friends there. The next to go was Woody, who in August 1944 had been drafted. When the notice came, he showed it to Papa. "And what will you do?" Papa said glumly. "I have to go." "What if you refuse to answer the letter?" "It is my duty." "What about those 26 boys from Tule Lake who refused to report? The judge in San Francisco ruled that they were right. It was in the papers. You can't lock somebody up because he might be disloyal and then make him join the army. That was the judge's conclusion." "Well, right now, Tom Dabashi, who used to live over in Block 9, is in jail in Los Angeles for refusing to report for his physical." "He was already in jail." Woody blinked, missing the point at first. Then he grinned. "Come on, Pop. It's not that bad out here. Not anymore." "Then why don't you stay?" "I'm gonna stay. For a while. Until they call me up. They put me in the reserve unit in camp. It would be months. Maybe the war will be over by then." His unit was called up in November. We all went down to see them off at the main gate. 19 young men in their teens and 20s, some wearing suits and ties, some, like Woody, wearing overcoats and neck scarves against the cold, carrying satchels, travel bags, and shaving kits. They lined up 2 deep for a photo that ran later in the camp paper. Then we watched Woody join the shuffling line and climb aboard. For me, it was almost like watching Papa leave again. I didn't know where he was going or understand quite why. When his bus pulled out, I only knew that if anything happened to him, the world would probably be coming to an end, because nothing could happen to Woody. He had always been so solid. I hugged Mama while we watched his final wave through the window, his mustache lifting above that impish smile, as if we had all just pulled a fast one on the world. Chizu was with us, waving back. This made it almost like the day, 3 years earlier, we had watched the boat sail out of San Pedro Harbor. Except that Chizu had 2 children now, and instead of a handful of fishermen's wives, there were 500 others with us here. They had turned out, like people in small towns all over the country, to watch their young men leave. The 442nd Combat Regiment was famous now, full of heroes, fighting in Europe to help the Allies win the war, and showing that Niseis too could be patriots. Woody was that kind of Nisei, anxious to prove to the world his loyalty, his manhood, something about his family honor. Climbing aboard, he must have been thinking of those things, while Mama, no doubt, was thinking of the mother at Manzanar who had already received a posthumous Congressional Medal of Honor on behalf of her son, who'd been killed in Italy. In these ways, it was a typical wartime departure, full of proud smiles and half-concealed worry. In other ways, it was edged with unique uncertainties. Families were being further torn asunder, and those left behind knew no more about their own fate than they did of the loved ones moving on. Would we still be here after the war? Would we be living forever in the summer heat and the winter winds of Owens Valley? And if not here, then where else? The answers to these questions, when they came, only added to our insecurity.